Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Here we explore fascinating stories, hidden details, and deep lore from the Lord of the Rings. In today's video, we're diving into a documentary-style analysis of one of the most important and dangerous objects ever created in Middle-earth, the One Ring. From Sauron and Celebrimbor to Isildur, Gollum, Bilbo Baggins, Frodo, Gandalf, and Samwise Gamgee, this is a journey that spans entire ages of the world. If you enjoy this kind of deep narrative breakdown, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We're still growing and have only a small number of subscribers, so your support truly makes a difference. Now, let's begin our journey into the complete and perilous history of the One Ring. The story truly begins in the Second Age of Middle-earth, with the forging of the Rings of Power. The 3, the 7, and the 9 were created in Eregion by the elven smiths of the Gwaith I Myrdain, led by Celebrimbor. Around the year 1600 of the Second Age, Sauron secretly returned to Mordor. There, in the fires of Orodruin, also known as Mount Doom, he forged the One Ring in secret. Into this ring, Sauron poured a vast portion of his own will, power, and malice, intending it to dominate all the other rings of power. When Sauron first put on the One Ring, Celebrimbor and the elves immediately perceived his betrayal. They became aware of his presence and understood his true intent. In response, the elves swiftly removed their rings. The 3 rings, which had been forged without Sauron's direct involvement, were sent away for safekeeping to Gil-galad and Galadriel. The remaining rings were hidden, but Sauron soon launched a devastating war against the elves of Eriador. In the year 1693 of the Second Age, Sauron invaded Eriador, destroyed Eregion, and personally killed Celebrimbor. From the ruins he reclaimed 16 rings of power. Although he failed to recover the 3 rings, Sauron redistributed the remaining rings among the dwarves and men. The 7 rings granted the dwarves immense wealth, while the 9 rings extended the lives of men, turning them into mighty kings, warriors, and sorcerers. Over time, the 9 men were corrupted entirely, becoming the Nazgul, bound forever to Sauron's will through the power of the One Ring. The dwarves, however, proved resistant to domination, though Sauron's growing power soon drew the attention of Numenor, the great island kingdom of men. In the year 3262 of the Second Age, Earpharazôn, the king of Numenor, assembled a vast fleet and marched to Middle-earth to confront the Dark Lord. Faced with the overwhelming might of the Númenóreans, Sauron chose not to fight. Instead, he surrendered himself willingly, allowing Earpharazôn to take him captive and bring him back to Numenor. This surrender was a calculated move. In Numenor, Sauron quickly rose to become the king's chief counselor. Through manipulation and deceit, he corrupted the hearts and minds of the Númenóreans, turning them against the Valar and leading them toward their own destruction. During this time, Sauron possessed the One Ring, using its power to dominate wills and bend the desires of many in the kingdom. Although his physical body was destroyed in the downfall of Numenor, his spirit endured, bound still to the One Ring. After the destruction of Numenor, Sauron returned to Mordor and slowly regained his strength. In the years that followed, he waged war against the surviving Númenóreans who had founded the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor in Middle-earth. His hatred burned especially strong toward these realms, born from those who had defied him. Eventually, Elendil of Arnor and Gil-galad, High King of the Elves, formed the last alliance of elves and men to oppose Sauron. Their armies marched on Mordor and laid siege to Barad-dûr for many years. At last, in the year 3441 of the Second Age, Sauron himself emerged to confront them. On the slopes of Mount Doom, Gil-galad and Elendil fought Sauron directly. Both were slain in the struggle, but Sauron was also overthrown. In the aftermath, Isildur, son of Elendil, approached the fallen Dark Lord and cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. With this act, Sauron's spirit fled, and the Second Age came to an end. Despite the counsel of Elrond and Círdan, Isildur claimed the One Ring as weregild for his father and brother, unknowingly setting the stage for the long tragedy that would follow. With Sauron defeated, Barad-dûr was torn down, yet its foundations could not be fully destroyed as long as the One Ring endured. Isildur took the ring with him, wearing it as a token of honor for his fallen father Elendil and his brother. Against the warnings of Elrond and Círdan, he refused to destroy it in Orodruin. Instead, he recorded its strange markings in nature, noting that the script upon it was written in a tongue of Mordor and would only reveal itself when heeded. As the Third Age began, Isildur prepared to return north to Arnor to reunite with his wife and youngest son, and to take up his rule as king. He carried the One Ring on a chain around his neck, as wearing it had already begun to cause him physical pain. Unbeknownst to him, the ring drew danger to its itself. Orcs were mysteriously drawn toward Isildur's company, guided by the malice of the ring itself. In the second year of the Third Age, Isildur and his men were ambushed at the Gladden Fields. His escort and his 3 eldest sons were slain in the attack. In desperation, Isildur put on the One Ring and attempted to escape by fleeing into the Anduin River. As he swam, the ring betrayed him. It slipped from his finger, abandoning him at his moment of greatest need. Overcome by shock and loss, Isildur struggled against the river's weeds and was eventually spotted by orcs, who struck him down with arrows. Thus, the ring claimed the life of its second bearer. For more than 2,000 years, the One Ring lay hidden in the depths of the Anduin. Though Saruman later claimed it had been washed out to sea, the ring remained in the river until the year 2463. On that day, 2 store hobbits, Daigle and Smeagol, were fishing along the riverbank. Daigle was pulled beneath the water by a great fish and discovered a shining golden ring in the riverbed. When Daigle surfaced, Smeagol saw the ring and was immediately consumed by desire. He strangled Daigle and took the ring for himself, hiding the body and returning alone. From that moment on, the dark influence of the One Ring began its long and tragic work once more. After taking the One Ring, Smeagol quickly discovered its strange power. When he wore it, his family could no longer see him, and he used this invisibility to spy, steal, and satisfy his growing malice. His behavior soon became unbearable, and he was cast out by his own people. Driven by the ring, Smeagol wandered until he settled deep beneath the Misty Mountains, near both orc colonies and the regions where Sauron's power would later rise again in Dol Guldur. There, isolated and corrupted, he slowly became the creature known as Gollum. The One Ring extended Gollum's life far beyond that of any normal hobbit, keeping him alive for nearly 5 centuries. Unlike men, who faded into the wraith world under the ring's influence, Gollum never fully became a wraith. This resilience hinted at the natural hardiness of hobbits. However, the ring took a severe physical toll, twisting his body and mind until little remained of Smeagol's former self. All the while, Sauron's power slowly grew again in Dol Guldur, and his thoughts inevitably turned back to the One Ring. In the year 2941 of the Third Age, as if answering its master's call, the One Ring slipped from Gollum's finger while he hunted beneath the mountains. The ring desired to be found, likely hoping to return to Sauron through the hands of orcs. Instead, it was discovered by Bilbo Baggins, who stumbled upon it in the dark tunnels beneath the Misty Mountains during his journey with Thorin and company. Bilbo used the ring's power of invisibility to escape danger multiple times, though he did not yet understand its true nature. Even during this short period, the ring's influence was evident. Bilbo's first instinct was to keep it secret, even from Gandalf and the dwarves. When Gandalf eventually learned of the ring, he assumed it was one of the lesser rings made before the Rings of Power, simple and unadorned, and therefore did not immediately suspect it to be the One Ring. For many years, Bilbo carried the ring quietly. By the time of his 111th birthday in the year 3001 of the Third Age, he had scarcely aged at all. His attachment to the ring had grown deep, and he often felt watched, drawn to it in ways he could not fully explain. These subtle signs marked the beginning of the ring's final journey toward revealing its true identity once more. By the time Bilbo's long-expected party arrived in the year 3001 of the Third Age, Gandalf had grown deeply concerned about the ring's effects. Bilbo had not aged in 6 decades, and his attachment to the ring had become unmistakable. He kept it constantly on his person, felt drawn to use it, and at times sensed an unseen eye watching him. Though reluctant and clearly distressed, Bilbo was persuaded by Gandalf to leave the ring behind when he departed the Shire. For the first time in its long history, the One Ring was willingly surrendered by its bearer. Bilbo settled peacefully in Rivendell while the ring passed to Frodo Baggins. Meanwhile, Gollum, who had lost his precious, spent years hunting for it, and for the hobbit who had taken it. Gandalf, increasingly uneasy, traveled to Minas Tirith, where he searched the archives and discovered the Scroll of Isildur. From this account, Gandalf learned the true nature of the One Ring, including the fiery script that would appear when it was heated. 17 years after Bilbo's departure, Gandalf returned to Hobbiton and tested Frodo's ring by casting it into the fire. Lines of glowing script appeared, revealing the black speech inscription of the One Ring. By this time, Barad-dûr had already been rebuilt in Mordor, and Sauron had begun his renewed war to reclaim the ring. Gandalf instructed Frodo to leave the Shire at once and make for Rivendell, where the wise could decide the fate of of Isildur's bane. During his journey, Frodo briefly encountered Tom Bombadil, a being entirely unaffected by the One Ring. When Bombadil placed it on his finger, he did not vanish, nor was he tempted by its power in any way. Despite Gandalf's warnings, Frodo wore the ring several times along the road. At Weathertop, this nearly proved fatal, as wearing the ring drew him into the unseen world, making him more visible to the Nazgul rather than less. Eventually, Frodo reached Rivendell, where the Council of Elrond was convened. There, it was decided that the One Ring could not be used, hidden, or given away. The only path left was to destroy it in the fires of Mount Doom. Frodo volunteered to bear the ring, and the Fellowship of the Ring was formed, setting in motion the final chapter of the ring's long and destructive history. The Fellowship departed Rivendell on December 25, 3018, carrying the One Ring south toward Mordor. Their first attempt to cross the mountains at Caradhras failed, forcing them to enter the ancient halls of Moria. There, disaster struck when Gandalf fell battling the Balrog, plunging into the depths and leaving the Fellowship leaderless. Aragorn assumed command and led the survivors to Lothlorien, where Frodo was offered refuge and healing. In Lothlorien, Frodo offered the One Ring to Galadriel. Though deeply tempted, she refused, knowing that wielding it would make her both great and terrible. The Fellowship then traveled down the Anduin River, passing the towering Argonath before camping at Parth Galen. There, Boromir attempted to seize the ring, driven by desperation to use it to save Gondor. Frodo escaped by putting on the ring and fled to Amon Hen, the Hill of Sight. While wearing the ring, Frodo perceived distant wars, and finally felt the terrible awareness of Sauron himself. He sensed the eyes searching for him from Barad-dûr, a relentless will closing in. At the last moment, Frodo heard a commanding voice urging him to remove the ring. Obeying, he broke Sauron's gaze. Unknown to him, this voice belonged to Gandalf, newly returned, struggling against the Dark Lord from afar. The Fellowship was broken. Frodo chose to continue alone, but Samwise Gamgee followed him, becoming his companion on the road into Mordor. The pair soon encountered Gollum, who swore himself to Frodo's service. In Gollum, Frodo saw a grim reflection of what the ring could make of him, and he treated the creature with mercy. Their journey took them past the Black Gate and through Ithilien, where they met Faramir, brother of Boromir. Unlike his brother, Faramir resisted the ring's temptation and allowed them to continue. Betrayed by Gollum, Frodo was stung by Shelob and taken to Cirith Ungol, where Sam briefly became a ring-bearer before rescuing Frodo. Together they pressed on toward Mount Doom, nearing the final reckoning of the One Ring.